Welcome to the Fearlessly Authentic Sash and Soul podcast. In each episode, we'll explore the power of embracing authenticity with a winning mindset and overall well-being to help you navigate life and the pageant world with confidence and resilience. I'm Rayanna Johnson, former Miss Wisconsin and founder of Fearlessly Authentic Coaching. So let's dive in. Welcome to Sash and Soul. Hey guys, welcome back to Sash and Soul. Thanks so much for joining again for another episode in the Crowned and Candid series. This guest, you guys, is kind of coming at a very serendipitous time for me. If you listen to my episode 47 with Miss Ohio, Stephanie Finotti, you will know that my dad is currently in the hospital. He suffered a stroke a week ago. And so Hayley and I were just talking and she's like, oh my gosh, this is like everything that I do. Like, perfect. So we're going to talk a lot today about like taking care of yourself as a title holder and in life in general. So excited to introduce Miss Hawaii. Did I do it right, Hayley?
You did. Good. Great job.
Good. Great. Miss Hawaii. I'm learning. We had like a whole conversation about this. 2024, Hayley Cheyney Kane. Kane. Okay. I almost said Kanye. I'm like, well, that's not it. So we were talking before and she said her overall message for this episode is just all about living authentically and how that helps you take care of yourself and prioritize your well-being, which I love because you all know, like, being fearlessly authentic is kind of my shtick. But she says, by loving yourself so fiercely that you're able to know what you need at all times. That's physically, mentally, emotionally. And that's what she teaches through her representation, through her career. And you're going to get a whole beautiful message about that today from her as well. So thanks for tuning in. And Hayley, thanks for joining me. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Rayanna. So excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a great conversation. They've all been fun conversations. So, but let's hear from you for a bit. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Hayley Cheyney Kane. I am from Hawaii. I'm from Oahu specifically, the island of Oahu, the town of Kaneohe. I am 28 years old. Yeah, I'm coming to the end of my year as Miss Hawaii 2024. So the brain cells they're really working on it. This is the very last push. So we got 3 weeks left.
3 weeks. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm the first openly gay Miss Hawaii. And I decided to run in this pageant system because I want to go to medical school. I want to become a medical doctor. I'm currently a preventative medicine educator at a federally qualified health center here. So health centers that specifically help the disenfranchised. And I teach about how to prevent lifestyle related illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, which leads to stroke and kidney disease. I'm personally motivated by to teach these things. One, because Native Hawaiians are disproportionately affected by heart disease and diabetes, but also because my partner lost her mother at only 45 years old a year ago to a heart attack. And it was really difficult personally because she was such a vibrant person, and that heart attack that ended her life too soon could have been prevented. And so I'm really passionate about making sure that no one else loses a mother like that.
Yeah. And I certainly appreciate that just in the position that I'm in right now. I was telling Hayley that like I finally checked into a hotel after spending 7 nights on a couch in my dad's hospital room, partly because I needed the comfort, but also I just really felt he needed someone to be there to advocate for him because he's nonverbal right now. And, we're working through things and he's said my name and he's starting to say things here and there, but it's pretty quiet. And like, he's there, he's all there. His personality is certainly there. So it could have been so much worse. He was found really quickly at work. So that was really good. But as we're talking about just like taking care of ourselves and the preventative care, like absolutely, this could have been prevented. He's only 63. And so as I'm listening to you, kind of on this opposite side of like, it's no longer prevention. Now we're in intervention and we are in the healing stage of, post crisis. But it's definitely eye-opening for me as a 35-year-old woman looking to be a mother and, have that longevity for myself, that like your work is so incredibly important. And we live our lives so often just like forgetting that like it's consistency that counts in taking care of ourselves. And that, as I'm sure you're going to talk about too at some level today, like consistent nutrition, consistent rest, consistent play, consistent, you know, just caring for ourselves in general in a way that like our parents used to care for us when we were little, and now they patched the torch to us, and we need to care for ourselves in that way too.
It's difficult to do so in our current society, right? Because we live in an age and in a structure that says you need to keep going, and you can put off the sleep later, you can put off the good nutrition and do all of that when you're retired or when you have energy. But the truth is that it needs to start now in order for that um quality of life to be good going forward, right? And it doesn't, and I think the biggest thing that I've taught is that it doesn't have to be big, right? It shouldn't be big. In fact, it needs to be small in order for it to be sustainable. And so when you're making changes toward better sleep, toward better food, toward better self-talk, even, it needs to be something as small as 15 minutes extra, uh 15 minutes extra sleep at night, a high five in the mirror to feel like you're worth the energy of positivity, and an extra carrot stick in your lunch. Like it doesn't need to be this big mountain. It in fact it needs to be tiny molehills so that we feel accomplished.
Talk to me about the power of the way that we talk to ourselves, because as a mindset coach and in the world of pageantry and of women that are type A, most likely, many of us are perfectionists, putting this pressure on ourselves, feeling the pressure from the outside in. Tell me about, like, from your perspective, the influence of that positive talk and like the steps to just get started on that.
I'm going to quote lots of Mel Robbins right now. I think
Oh, yes. I am a huge Mel Robbins fan right now. Let them, let them, let them, and let me. Yes.
yes. Okay, beautiful. To be honest with you, I think the biggest thing for self-talk is what Mel Robbins says, like high fives in the mirror, and just doing that little mind game of I'm the only one that's going to make that difference, and I'm powerful enough, right? And it's just consistency and consistently being kind to yourself, and thinking, because it's not going to work if we're trying to make these big drastic changes, right? So in pageantry, for me, especially because I'm like the first openly gay Miss Hawaii.
And one of the, and one of the first openly gay, like, state title holders too. There haven't been a lot. So, I mean, kudos to you and thank you for being open and being fearless in that. Well, I probably shouldn't speak for you. I don't know if you're fearless in that or not, but like,
Oh yeah, I feel pretty, yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Cause I have clients that are open too. And I think it's it's great for everyone to see representation of the way that they identify themselves as well. So thanks for being that representation.
Thank you for acknowledging it. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say though is that it has been harder to be kind when I think my body is trying to anticipate, kind to myself in the self-talk, when my body is trying to anticipate um, the things that other people might say about me as I was running for Miss Hawaii, as I was running for Miss America. But like I said to myself every single day, and like I said in the my Miss America interview, um, my only responsibility is to be myself. So it doesn't matter how many people have input or come up to the window of my life. My only job is to be me, because I'm the only one that has to live in my body. I'm the only one that has to live with myself. And I spent 22 years trying to hide from the fact that I was gay. And once I finally got over that, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Like, you deserve to be comfortable. Once I started believing that, I was freer. I feel more confident. I feel more at ease, and I have the peace that I had been searching for. And so when I ran for Miss Hawaii, when I ran for Miss America, I was just like, people need to know that it's normal to be you, and that nobody else really has input. It's just about you and what makes you feel most you, authenticity.
Authenticity. It's such a buzzword. How would you describe being authentic?
You know that feeling when you're like giving a speech or you're answering a question on stage and you have like all of this buzz in your body because you're like anxious, and then you take a deep breath and you let it go and you're finally in your body and you can think clearly. That's what being authentic feels like to me. That letting go of the tension, letting go of the pressure, and just kind of like encapsulating myself in my own bubble and reminding and listening to that inner voice and reminding myself again that my only job is to be me, and I'm the only one that can provide the unique perspective that I have. And my job in answering a question, the thing that's going to make it good is me.
There's been a bit of a theme for me in the past couple of weeks, and this week especially, of grounding and
Ah,
recognizing that I and I have I've worked really hard on learning how to regulate my emotions during times of stress, because historically I've really struggled with that. So I've been in therapy for many years to learn the tools and the skills to regulate when I'm under stress. And so I think without that, I don't know how I would have managed this past week as well as I did. And I'm very proud of how I was able to handle that. I'm proud of articulating when I needed something, even if I didn't even know what I needed, but I just needed somebody else to step up. I told my husband, like, I need you to be my caretaker while I'm my dad's caretaker. So being able to articulate those things. But one of the things that I recognized was I I couldn't think clearly until I took a moment to like relax my nervous system, until I felt like I was in my body again. So that has become step one for me of doing the deep breathing or literally getting up and walking around or going and feeling the sun on my face or something that was going to remind me that I'm physically here and grounded. And then it was like I could start taking those steps to think rationally, to have those conversations with myself where I'm talking positively to myself and encouraging myself. And so I just wanted to point that out, that I feel like that can oftentimes be that first step. Because when you mentioned, and yes, I do know what that feels like when you're on stage or before you go on stage and you have that like nervous energy just like buzzing inside of you. When you can feel physically in your body and relaxed and attached to something again, then all of a sudden you're like free to have that clarity of thought and really let that passion and that power come out through your soul, and through your mouth.
because I feel like that's when the most beautiful things happen, right? Like when people are just bearing their souls and being vulnerable on whether it's on stage or just like in a conversation that you're having, like when you can just make space for yourself, other people feel comfortable making space for themselves. And like when people can live comfortably in themselves like that, that's when the true power of authenticity shines through, I think.
That is so beautiful. When you can make space for yourself, other people feel safe in that space with you and feel safe to make space for themselves too. Yeah. And a beautiful visual too, because that's so true. Absolutely. Let's talk about your year a little bit. I want to know, I've kind of been asking, the way we've been diving in is like, take me back to crowning night and what was going through your mind.
Oof. Okay. So when I won this year, it was my second year running, and the year prior I had been first runner up. So they call all the other runners up, and it's just me and my first runner up standing there. And I was like, oh no, please, please not again. Please not again, because that hurt so bad. the ego. That hurt my ego so bad the last time. So that's what was running through my mind initially, but then I was also standing there because the million years that it feels that like between when they announce it.
Yes, because
Yeah,
then they're also like they're usually doing it for dramatic effect, but then
yeah.
also like our MC in Wisconsin does this whole thing where he's like, the first runner up is a very important job, and he goes into explaining like what happens if for some reason blah blah blah, and so then it just like takes forever. But yeah, it feels like forever.
That's true in Hawaii too. It feels like a million in 5 years. So in those million and 5 years that I was standing there, I was like, okay, well, here are all the things I'm proud of in this moment, regardless of what happens, because I have no control. I have no control. And honestly, whatever is meant to happen will happen. Um, so I was just standing there thinking, okay, I'm proud of advocating for the LGBTQ community. I'm proud of talking about my partner's mom. I'm proud of talking about the importance of sisterhood and how this pageant has system has helped me like create the Hayley that is here now. And I'm proud of being in my body, and I'm proud I slayed that walk, and I'm proud of my talent because I sang and danced at the same time, and my teacher's probably so proud of me now. I'm so regardless of what happens, I did what I came here to do. And then they called my name as Miss Hawaii, and I was like, oh my gosh, no way, Jose.
Like that gut like punch
Yeah,
of, oh, this is real. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then I was supposed to wave, and the first thing I thought was, did I shave my armpits? I don't remember. I do not.
Yeah, it's so real.
So I'm like breathing really hard and really deeply, and then I'm like not sure if I should raise my hand or not.
Especially because you know that they're going to be like close up taking that photo of you doing
Yes.
the wave. And it's like they're going to, yeah, hone in on that. And that's going to become your legacy for the whole year. The girl who
Oh
didn't
yeah.
shave her armpits.
Yes, exactly. So when they handed me the plaque and after I had been crowned, I was just like, you'll see a picture of me holding my plaque. It goes like this. My
Elbows
arms are,
in.
yeah, elbows in. And like there's a picture of me waving like this.
Hmm.
So like if there's so like not completely up, but there's like
Like a bit of a shadow.
a little bit of a shadow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like can't really tell. Just a little bit.
Amazing. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love that. So, who were you then and who are you now? How much have you changed?
Oh my gosh. I think I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, honestly, and I really thought that I
Mm.
had because I grew up in this system with the same directors or well, with the same people, different directors, same people. Um, because I was Miss Hawaii's Outstanding Teen 2013.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, yeah. So
Yep.
I had been in this system for a long time, and I was like hoping that it would feel like coming home, which it did in many ways. But Hayley at the beginning of the year was a bit naive and a lot more anxious than Hayley now. Because it's really difficult to live in Hawaii. And so all of our directors have multiple other jobs slash things that they need to do. And so a lot of the things that I've done have been because I wanted to go do it. So it has been me needing to go advocate for myself. I think the other major difference is I cry a lot easier now. I I just am so I had no idea how much of an impact it would make. Being the first openly gay Miss Hawaii and talking about lifestyle changes. I didn't realize how many people would come to me during my year and say thank you because I was just doing what I felt passionate about. I wasn't really thinking about how it would positively or negatively impact people. I was just trying to do it. So now I feel moved by the things that kind of came through me this year, because it has been more amazing than I could have dreamt of. Being able to travel internationally, and represent Hawaii in a way that hasn't been done in a long time. First, I'm like the first Native Hawaiian that like also speaks Hawaiian in a long time. And they're just really big strides for our people that wouldn't have been done. And I just feel really grateful for the opportunity to be that person and to be that vessel. And then separately, as a queer person in this election year, it's been a lot harder than it could have been. And so watching myself fearlessly step into that space of representation and say, I don't care what happens to me. I don't care what people say to me, because I think it's so important for people like younger Hayley to have someone to look to that they can relate to, that makes tomorrow a little bit easier. I think that's way more important than censoring myself because I'm scared.
Did you mindfully or purposely, or was there a reason that you didn't choose queer advocacy or something along those lines for your initiative versus the wellness that you did instead?
I didn't want it to be my whole thing. I didn't want my queerness to be my shtick. And because I want it to be normal. I want it to be something that people don't think twice about. It's a characteristic about me, but it's not all of me. And Hayley is actually really passionate about wellness and how authenticity ties into that wellness, right? Because you cannot love yourself without fully knowing yourself. So I couldn't fully love myself and prioritize my health emotionally or physically without being radically honest about the fact that I was gay and dating men. What's it?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it was intentional. And I think the more powerful message was loving and accepting yourself, because that's how you take care. And as a total nerd, I needed to wrap it in the medicine, because it's like how I move through the world.
I think that's brilliant, because it's also being a role model to women to show like we are multifaceted, we are dynamic, we have a lot of components to ourselves that make us who we are. We are not identified as just one thing. And that makes an incredibly powerful statement. And yet you also chose to be very loud about all of those aspects of who you are and what you bring to the table. And there's so much already, like just in this short conversation, that you have displayed of who Hayley is. And that's so cool, because one of the most powerful things you can do as a human being and as a title holder is showing up and showing all of those facets of who you are, so that the people that need to see representation of themselves in that space will see that. And so I think that's brilliant that you opened up and allowed yourself to show all these very unique sides of you. And so that little girls that you met, little boys that you met, could see just pieces of themselves in you. I was just talking to a client about this earlier, about vulnerability and storytelling, and that, it's like we have this desire to show up for younger us and be, this person that others could look at and say, wow, so I could do it too. But the only way that they're going to say, oh, wow, I could do that too, is if they see their own faults in you, if they see the things they're struggling with in your story. And that's where that vulnerability and that authenticity is so powerful, because that's what connects people, is those lived experiences.
you've just described aloha. I'm gonna say that. So like the name of my CSI is aloha is for everyone. And and the point is by having aloha, which means to breathe into other people, breathe life into other people. Yeah. So alo, face or facing ha, meaning breath. It's the life that we breathe into one another when our lives collide. It means having never ending compassion, never ending respect, and never ending love for ourselves, other people, and the land that we come from, because it's all connected. Right. And so I think the most powerful way to show that we are compassionate for the person in front of us is like you're describing, being vulnerable and showing them like, this is so normal and you are so seen and you are so cared for.
Validating.
Validating. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely. I feel like that's most of the work that I do and the mindset work that I'm doing is like learning to validate ourselves, learning to just practice that radical acceptance of this is what I've been through, this is what I'm feeling, and it's okay. I'm okay. I don't have to necessarily like it, but it's valid and it's okay for me to feel what I'm feeling.
Yes. Mel Robbins and Brene Brown,
Yes.
the two leaders in these areas of shadow work or emotional work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I want to dive deeper into your well-being and how you work to manage that in the midst of, you had already mentioned, the election season, the being openly gay, the like living, on this island where, you didn't necessarily have a lot of support for good reason because everyone's busy and you're surrounded by volunteers. And so you have to pick up the slack in a lot of ways. And that's commendable and so common, I think, in a lot of different states that, these organizations are run by volunteers and we can't expect them to do all this stuff for us. So let's talk about well-being in the midst of all of that complexity.
When I started my year, my partner and I, she said, Haley, we're just gonna take everything one coffee at a time. So that's kind of how I took care of myself and maintained my sanity, just doing one thing at a time and doing everything bite size. And also remembering that the things that are meant to fall off will, and it's okay. Um, as long as you're doing everything well and approaching it in a way that you feel proud of, then that's all that matters. And then honestly, again, my partner, she took care of me a lot. She's doing the laundry, she's driving me to places, she's making sure I'm eating, she's making sure I'm sleeping, and reminding me that I'm doing a good job even when I feel super spread thin and I can't remind myself, So having my tribe. I also have my family. My sister particularly she's very near and dear to me, and she reminds me of who I am, you know? So having people that remind me that you are still Hayley, and even though the pressure of Miss Hawaii can feel like a lot, you're still just a person that is only meant to follow the passion that was instilled in your heart. So you're just doing the things that feel pili or connected to you, and you don't have to do anything extra. You can just be. I guess I'm saying that everybody else is how I how I took care of myself. All the people around me is really how I did it. I also I grew up in a foster home when I was in high school. And so that foster family really came and cradled me this year. My drag mother, her too. Yeah. So my tribe.
You
Mhm.
say your drag mother?
Yes.
Tell
Yes,
me
my drag.
more.
So, have you heard of every drag queen's favorite drag queen, Sasha Colby?
It sounds really familiar, but no,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think I
Have you
have.
heard of RuPaul's Drag Race?
Yes, I have. I haven't watched it though.
Oh,
Uh-huh. I know, for shame.
oh. Okay. No shame. No shame. Um, anyway, so Sasha Colby, when she was announcing Chapel Roan at the
Mm.
VMAs, it's like my drag
Hmm.
daughter. So it's kind of
Oh, okay.
like a like a queer mother, like
Yeah.
queer family mother, right?
Okay.
So
Oh, love
so
that.
my
Okay.
drag mother, yes, my drag mother is somebody that I go to when I need help navigating the queer space, because that's not something that my biological mother or my foster mother can really understand, right? Um, just another a person in my tribe that like really sees me in a way that other people can't. Yeah.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
fairy drag mother.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I want one.
We all need one. We all need.
Honestly, it's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true.
She also made all my dresses, so that
Oh,
helped too. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Which makes it so fun and so personal too.
Hmm.
Keeps you
Hmm.
grounded, which is so nice. You would mention that you were given a lot of encouragement to let things go and to that you don't have to do it all. How did that feel for you?
It was hard to hear because I was like fighting with myself because I wanted to do everything. The mindset that I had was it's only 1 year. I only get 1 year to live this fabulous life, right? But it's not so fabulous if I am so burnt out. If I'm so burnt out that I can't put a sentence together. I noticed that when I was like piling too many things on my plate, I couldn't I couldn't function well in my mock interviews, or even when I'm speaking at events. I felt so in my head, so anxious because I had not been taking care of my body, that when I went to go be myself, nothing was coming out because my well was dry.
How did you fill that well? I mean, you have your circle of people, but what were the tools that you pulled out of your toolbox?
So sleep and exercise are two really big ones for me. That's kind of how I rest, obviously through sleep, but like that's how I recuperate, you know? Because your brain does all of the reorganizing while you're sleeping, and then your body will store the stress, and so the exercise helps you to kind of like shake that out. No, or it helps me to shake that out. And then I love to eat. So eating delicious foods that make my body feel good um, is also how I take care of myself.
So you had this beautiful inner circle of people, but were there moments that you felt lonely, misunderstood, or burnt out throughout your year?
Oh yes. I think burnout was probably the most is probably the most appropriate word to use there. I mean, I feel like I had back-to-back things. I think I also felt misunderstood. I felt misunderstood from my work quite a bit. Emotionally burnt out from all of the expectation I put on myself to be well put together, and what I thought other people were expecting of me when I went to appearances or went into practices. And um, anytime I post myself as like even getting out of my car to go to the grocery store, I was just putting all this expectation on myself. And that kind of burnt me out emotionally. And then I felt misunderstood at my job because healthcare is a whole nother world that doesn't understand like the positive things that could come from being a title holder, or like how that could help to promote the health center itself. So when it came to I need to keep my job because I'm 28 years old and don't have health insurance, so like I need to continue to work. Can you please work with me on this? Their expectation was that I would be there at all times, or that I would be there and without any schedule flexing. And that's just not how it works as a title holder. Um, so dealing with the backlash of that and the resentment that is kind of built, even though I'm promoting what we provide as a health center and also promoting myself and like making better for myself. So it was really hard to like have to defend this achievement to my workplace that has historically just wanted me to do better and like excel in my career.
Did you feel like it was a lot of pageant stereotypes that was causing some of this misunderstanding? Or where do you think it came from?
I think it's just like nobody really understands pageantry in Hawaii. Like there are no stereotypes here other than it's a beauty pageant. And like, because I get a lot of why do I care? Why do we care about you being in a crown and banner? Why do I care that why do I want to have Miss Hawaii come speak at my event? I don't really know what that means. So there was a lot of like advocating for how Miss Hawaii can elevate your experience or how it can elevate your event or promote my health center, like it was a lot of people being like, why is this relevant? Not so much the stereotypes.
That is a huge contributor to burnout.
Yeah.
When you feel so passionately about something and you know the value about something that you're doing, and then constantly being met with this misunderstanding and devaluing of this thing that you find and know to be incredibly powerful. So what was that like then what was your appearance booking like and the outreach that you did for trying to book appearances? What did that look like for you?
Well, initially it was just me kind of cold calling, cold emailing people. And the initial response was, oh, I want to highlight you because you're openly gay in a public space. Or I want to highlight you because you're beautiful. And so I want you to be like a model for my clothing line. And not so much the like speaking and advocating that I really wanted to do. So that just was me meeting the right people because in Hawaii, it's all about who you know.
Mm.
Meeting the right people and then having those conversations that says, hey, this is actually what I can do. Um, I can talk about my experience as a Native Hawaiian, as a foster care child, as first openly gay person in a public space. I can as a healthcare provider. Like I can talk about things that our people need to hear, that Hawaii needs to hear. And then on a national level, so for people that aren't Native Hawaiian in Hawaii, I can talk about how aloha is the healing antidote that we so desperately need in our country because of all of the division that's happening. And so when people come to Hawaii, I can talk to them about the importance of taking full advantage of that aloha and really understanding it and not just feeling like you're a tourist that needs to stay in your own lane. So yeah, it was just a lot of me like messaging people, trying to get into the circles that will hear me out. Um, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But
When we're preparing for a state competition or a national competition, we work really hard to like, what's your game plan? What's your messaging? Who are you going to partner with? All of these things of like, because we're preparing for this job, right? And then you kind of get into it and you start realizing there's all these aspects of it that you didn't really anticipate. And so much of that is what you just described of trying to advocate for why you are a valuable potential component to an event or as a speaker or whatever facet that you were showing up for. What you're describing is this idea of like your messaging trying to already anticipate kind of the objections that you're going to get, and so getting those workarounds of how does this message of whatever component you were talking about, how does this relate to a lot of different types of people so that you can really broaden the scope of who you can connect with and why your messaging can make an impact. We talk about that in Fearlessly Authentic of like, what are the problems that you're addressing? What are the impacts of those problems? What are the solutions? When we're talking about the impacts, it's what are the impacts on a lot of different people? And what are the impacts on a different communities? And what are the impacts fiscally and for the government and like all these different areas so that when you're making your case as to why your message, why your initiative, why the problem that you're fighting is important, it doesn't really matter who you're talking to because you can make a case for it no matter who it is and what they find important for themselves. And that's what I was hearing as you were describing how you approached it. Was that something that you planned for, or did you kind of learn along the way?
I kind of learned along the way. I mean, when I was preparing for the state competition, I knew that I needed to have an explanation for my specific CSI. And I also needed to have a broad understanding of how I would make that translatable nationally so that I could be successful at nationals. But I didn't have to, I didn't have a specific plan in place. I didn't have like all of the kinks worked out, like how I did once I became, or once I finally stepped into the role and like actively practiced by trial and error, having to advocate on my own for myself. I knew, I mean, I think it's fair to say that I had to anticipate explaining aloha to in a broad way, right? Like I think I needed to already have that. And I felt like I did that. But so the hard part wasn't communicating to people from the continent. It was actually communicating to people from Hawaii, like locally. It was difficult to promote myself and kind of talk about my worth, because on a local level, there's this intergenerational trauma that makes it really difficult for us to uplift one another. And it's getting better. It's getting a lot better. But I think that that was kind of what I was running into when it came to me being Miss Hawaii and trying to be on those bigger platforms that talk to the state and like all the people in the state, because yeah, we're not quite there yet. But on the other hand, I will say that people have stepped in to lift me up um and help me to advocate for myself. But that whole process was very surprising. But like the most resistance I ran into was locally.
That is really surprising. How did that impact your sense of self-worth personally?
It was something that I kind of just took in stride, because it was surprising that as a title holder, like with a crown on my head and an achievement on my papers, that I would still be met with this resistance. But it was something that I was met with before as Hayley. And so in a sense, I kind of was not surprised, because it was nothing new. Like this isn't new behavior. This system has been in place, and this intergenerational trauma healing is something that we've all been working on since the overthrow in the 1800s. But it made me realize, like, oh, it doesn't matter what achievement I have. This is still an area of healing and an area of trauma that we have to address, regardless of how many hats or how many levels I level up to. You know, it will never be gone. It will always be something to address and move through.
What do you think your legacy is as a Miss Hawaii?
I think I'm the Miss Hawaii that was not scared, that did it despite all odds, that like pushed through it despite all odds. I think I'm also the real Miss Hawaii. like I'm not your typical pageant Patty. So my personality is what we would call a local tita. So that's somebody that's like more tomboyish, more likely to be blunt and tell you exactly what she thinks and feels, and not so polished, not so worried about palatability, you know?
Hmm.
So that's my personality. So I think I would be known for my shock factor a little bit, you know, just kind of like, here I am, here's what I stand for, and I'm not afraid, but in a respectful way, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely pick up on some of what you're saying in your personality just in this conversation, but it's also refreshing. You know,
Thank
it's
you.
yeah, it's approachable and refreshing, and you know, talking about wanting to be real and authentic, like that's it. You're not trying to be what, you know, we think other people think we should be as a title holder. And that's really important, because one of the reasons that I started Crowned and Candid as a series was because there's a lot of misconceptions about what is expected of you as a state title holder, as a title holder in general. But like, you know, hear a lot of, you win, and then the imposter syndrome kind of sets in because you feel like there's all these expectations of you behaving a certain way and showing up a certain way. And you had kind of mentioned some of that kind of expectation of yourself that led to some exhaustion and burnout too, like early on. And so I feel like there's usually this learning curve and period of discovery and growth, especially for the first few months of wearing that crown and sash. And I think so much of it is because we've built it up in our heads that a state title holder is usually, or is, X, Y, and Z in our heads. And so this is partly why I started Crown and Candid, because I'm like, that's just not it. I know that's not it, but I've been there, and you don't really know that that's not it until you've walked in those shoes. And so, of course, like, we can talk about this all we want to, but like actually experiencing it is that's where the growth happens. That's where real learning happens, is by experiencing it. But can you speak to that too? Just that, like, bridging that gap from this is what we think a title holder is to this is the reality of being a title holder.
So because I grew up in Hawaii where there are less pageant stereotypes, and I was a title holder as a teen and a title holder as a miss, I think I have a little bit of a different approach than maybe other states would. But for me, the idea of being Miss Hawaii was more glamorous than the reality. I'm
Mm.
sure is true for a lot of people. But more interestingly for me, like when I was a teen and I had an older miss, I thought that like if I were to ever become the miss, that I would be this very mature, very put together version of myself. And then when I became miss, I was like, wait, I'm still a person. I'm still a messy human that like has to figure out her own stuff. And so the reality was that I needed to still be a human, and I felt really called to representing that as Miss Hawaii. I felt really called to be continuing to be the local Tera, the fearless, blunt, radically honest Hayley that I was prior to being crowned. And on one hand, I kind of expected to be shut down for that initially by my directors or by people that hired me as for appearances, but it was actually the thing that made people want me more, so that authenticity and that bluntness was refreshing, like you had described, to other people. And I was not expecting that. The imposter syndrome was hardest for me when I went to nationals, actually, because I felt like Hawaii was a lot less competitive compared to other states. But when I went to nationals, the reality was that, again, we're all girls trying to better ourselves and the world around us, and we can all add to each other's lives. We can all contribute to the betterment of America. We, the Miss contestants, are going to be the next leaders. And so it's not so much about it's not so much of a focus on the intimidation. It was easier for me to go up there and just be and exist and do my best, because I knew that I was just I knew that I had the opportunity to shine and help everyone else shine me around me too, because we're all doing the same thing.
Do you have any regrets from your year?
No, I did everything. I did everything I possibly could. I went to the Olympics. I went to Japan twice. I got to travel to other states and meet other Miss contestants before, which Miss Hawaii doesn't really get to do because it's so far away. And I made lots of friends at Miss America. So no regrets. I also probably wouldn't let myself think about the regrets even if I had them, because it doesn't matter. Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
there comes in again that self-talk and choosing to talk to yourself in a way that is helpful and not hurtful.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Self five.
Yeah. I do need to practice the high fiving. I was just talking
It's
about
so
that with
awkward.
someone a couple of weeks ago who had started doing that for herself every day. Like, yeah, maybe I should do that. I'm like, do you physically hit the mirror? And she said, yeah. Like, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Ring it all. Just
Bring it all. I love it. So to the next Miss Hawaii or other, women that are listening, what do you want them to take away? What do you want them to know to be true about themselves and about this process and the experience?
Pageantry is like the self-growth pressure cooker. And the Miss America system is like the self-growth pressure cooker of all self-growth pressure cookers. And what you gain from the experience is what you put into it. So I would say it takes a lot of courage to get on that stage, to enter the system, to be willing to hold the mirror up to yourself and look at all of the things that you could improve on. So you are already brave, regardless of what happens in the outcome. To the next Miss Hawaii, you have such a unique opportunity to represent our state and our culture. Hawaii is different from all the other states because the Native Hawaiian aloha is what makes Hawaii so magical. It's what makes people so drawn to our state. And so I would say to her to just be the aloha that exists here, and remind yourself that you have it in you to breathe life into yourself. You have it in you to breathe life into the people that you meet. And that healing life antidote is what America could really benefit from. And that's what makes people so drawn to you as a person when you have the aloha in you. And that's translatable. I would just say relish in that, be that light, and get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Absolutely. I love it. All right. As we come to a close today, Hayley, is there anything that is on your heart that we didn't quite get to that you wanted to make sure we talked about?
I really hope your dad is okay. I just keep thinking about him. I just think that it's important for family members who have aging family members and that are dealing with lifestyle issues or lifestyle illnesses to remember that you can only do the best next thing. You can't do anything about what has already happened. And the best medicine is that self-compassion, because having compassion for yourself is what's going to heal your heart. And when you heal your heart, you feel compelled to make better decisions for your body because it's second nature. It's second nature to think, I'm not going to smoke this cigarette because it doesn't feel good. And I'm not interested in not feeling good. But that only happens when you have that self-compassion. And then for family members who are like you, who have aging parents that are struggling from this, just remembering that you can only take care of other people when your cup is full. So you are just as worth the prioritization as you're giving to your dad. Just remember that getting good sleep is really important for your immune system, for your eating habits, for your mental well-being, and et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving you that compassion and reminding you that you're worth that compassion to yourself too.
You. That is such a challenge. And I think it's a constant practice that we all
Yeah.
need to do of navigating what do we need to do that's best for ourselves in any
Mhm.
given situation. And I think the more we go through in life, the more we can learn as long as we are actively practicing that
Yeah.
self-care and trying to uncover exactly what it is that we need to fill our well or to fill our cup, as you had talked about. But I love what you said too about it doesn't help us to look back at the past and the things that have been done. The only thing that helps is to look at what is the next best thing that we can be doing. And I think that translates to so many things. I mean, if you're listening and you are feeling some level of shame because of a mistake that you made, or the person that you used to be. That just isn't you anymore. And that's holding you back because you think that somehow now you're not deserving of all of these amazing things in your life. I think that is a beautiful message to take away, that we can't change the things that have happened in the past, but what we can do is the next best thing for ourselves and for our communities and for the people that we love. And I think that's a great way to wrap up this conversation. And Hayley, I needed this conversation. I think the last few conversations, it's been really fills me with joy when, my guests have been like, oh, this was so healing. I needed to process my year out loud. And I'm like, that's amazing. That was a benefit that I didn't even think would be the case, but I'm so glad that happened for you. But this time around, this was a healing conversation for me. And so I really appreciate your energy and your compassion and the passion that you have for people and the work that you do, and just trying to show up as yourself and make space for other people in doing that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One coffee at a time.
That's
Appreciate
right.
it.
I'm
That's right.
almost done with mine.
Okay.
Yes.
What time is it there? Like 6 p.m. It's 5:30?
It's
5:36?
6:45 p.m.
Quarter to
And
7. So
yeah.
bright.
Yeah, it's pretty bright still, which it's springtime. So the days are just getting longer from here until June, I think, is the first day of summer. So yeah. Yeah. I love it. I need the sunshine. I'd rather be living in a state like yours.
I used to live in Seattle, so I get it.
So you do get it. Yeah. The seasons
I get
for
it.
sure. Yeah. And I have one more call after this, and then I'm going to go say goodnight to my dad and check in and make sure everything's good. And really, really practice compassion for myself and giving myself the grace to be okay with sleeping away from the hospital tonight. He's okay. He's in good hands. It's good for me. I'm going to take what you said to heart. It's all good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool. All right. Well, congratulations to you. Good luck on the rest of your year. Excited to see what you do next. And for those of you listening, you can certainly follow Hayley for the last bit of her reign as Miss Hawaii. And of course, follow everything that she's doing next. I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. So
thank you, Rihanna. So good chatting with you. And yeah, this conversation has been very healing for me. So thank you for the opportunity. Good. And yeah, I hope everything goes well with your dad's healing. It sounds like he's on the up and up in terms of recovery.
Yeah. He's strong. He's strong. That's where I get a lot of it from. So yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, Hayley. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back again very soon with another episode of Sash and Soul in our Crowned and Candid series. We'll talk to you then. Bye. If you've been working so hard, but still feel like something's missing, then I want to personally invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation. This is for you if you're tired of overthinking every detail. You're doing everything you can to prepare, practicing your walk, your talent, interview, refining your paperwork, and staying up late analyzing every possible outcome. You put in the work, but still question if you're doing enough or if you are enough. So in just one call, we'll talk through where you're at, what's been holding you back, and how you can start showing up fully prepared to win the title and actually do the job once you get it. If you're looking for more than just surface level prep, and you're ready to prepare with strategy, support, and confidence that actually lasts, I'd love to be part of your process. Head to the link in the show description to grab your spot, and I'll see you there.